Welcome to the premiere, the place where you always find what to watch without wasting time searching. Today we're counting down the movies and shows set to define the rest of 2026, superheroes, but also science fiction, black comedy, and even a release that leaked online before its time. Stay until the end, because the #1 spot brings back an iconic villain in Marvel's most ambitious crossover in years. Before we start, leave a like, subscribe, and hit the bell. Number 10. Dune, Part 3. The Emperor, who used to be a prophet, can no longer hide behind anyone else's faith, and that throne is starting to look a lot more like a sentence than a win. Herbert wrote that novel as a deliberate corrective to his own earlier book, and Villeneuve seems willing to honor that discomfort instead of smoothing it over. Denis Villeneuve closes out his trilogy by adapting Dune Messiah, the novel Frank Herbert wrote specifically to dismantle the Chosen One myth he'd built in the original book. Timothée Chalamet and Zendaya return as Paul and Shani, joined by Florence Pugh, Javier Bardem, Rebecca Ferguson, and Jason Momoa, while Robert Pattinson comes aboard as the enigmatic Scytale. Hans Zimmer is back scoring what's shaping up to be the most political, introspective chapter of the three. Villeneuve has repeated in interviews that this will be his last Dune film, which adds extra weight to every narrative choice in this chapter. If Part 2 was the Holy War, this one aims at the price you pay after you win it, which makes it essential viewing for anyone who likes watching a hero stop being untouchable. Number 9. Avatar, Seven Havens. A brand new Avatar has to carry a world that still hasn't finished healing from the wounds Korra's era left behind. The cataclysm that shatters the world forces the title's Seven Havens to distrust each other right when cooperation matters most. Original creators Michael Dante DiMartino and Brian Konietzko return to run this series, which follows Pavi, a young earthbender who discovers she's the next Avatar after a cataclysm shatters the world into Seven Havens. The footage shown at this year's Comic-Con already split fans over its more stylized animation compared to the classic shows. The series is structured into two 13-episode blocks, conceived as two separate books within the same season. It arrives carrying the weight of following one of the most beloved animated franchises of the last decade, which puts it squarely on the radar of anyone who grew up with the Four Elements. It works as a solid entry point both for newcomers and for anyone who's been waiting years to get back to Ba Sing Se. Number 8. Spider-Man, Brand New Day. Peter Parker is living alone in a city that no longer remembers he exists, and that isolation is pulling out a side of him he barely recognizes. No one around him remembers he ever existed, and that kind of invisibility ends up weighing more than any physical villain could. Shang-Chi director Destin Daniel Cretton takes over Tom Holland's fourth outing as Spider-Man, set years after No Way Home wiped Peter from everyone's memory. John Bernthal returns as the Punisher to force an uneasy alliance, while Mark Ruffalo reappears as Hulk and Zendaya returns as MJ. Filming moved to Glasgow and had to pause briefly after Holland suffered a mild concussion during a stunt sequence. The promise here is a more street-level, less multiverse-heavy Spider-Man, which makes it a must for anyone who missed watching Peter solve his problems with his fists instead of an army of variants. It also happens to be releasing the same day as this video, so it's already playing for anyone who wants to catch it this weekend. Number 7. Avatar Aang, The Last Airbender. A now adult Aang stumbles onto an ancient power that might save the air nomads from disappearing for good and decides to go after it without anyone asking him to. The search takes him through territory even Aang himself never fully knew, long after defeating the Fire Lord. This is Avatar Studios' first feature film, with Dave Bautista, Steven Yeun, and Taika Waititi among the leads, blending hand-drawn animation with CG backgrounds. The movie arrived, shadowed by a massive leak back in April that led to an arrest in Singapore, and by Paramount's decision to skip a traditional theatrical release and send it straight to streaming. The original release was set for October, but Paramount decided to move it up nearly 3 months after the leak, even tweaking the title to make pirated copies harder to search for. The buzz around that leak already made it a mandatory conversation topic, so it's worth watching just to form your own opinion about the scandal that surrounded it. Number 6. The Batman Part 2. A snow-covered, still-flooded Gotham is waiting on the same detective as always. Only this time, the enemies come with brand new last names. The flooding left behind by the first film still hasn't receded, and that soaked through Gotham has become the perfect breeding ground for corruption. Matt Reeves returns to write and direct this sequel, with Robert Pattinson back as Bruce Wayne, alongside Jeffrey Wright, Colin Farrell, and Andy Serkis. The most talked about additions are Scarlett Johansson and Sebastian Stan, reportedly cast as Harvey Dent and his wife. The release date has shifted more than once, most recently just a few weeks ago. The date was once locked in for October 2027 before shifting again on Warner's release calendar. Every delay only builds more anticipation for finally seeing Two-Face in this version of Batman, keeping it one of the most talked about projects around even with its arrival still a ways off. Number 5. Batman, Caped Crusader Season 2. Harvey Dent's death makes it painfully clear that Batman can't keep fighting all of Gotham alone, and that realization changes how he operates from here on out. Bruce starts building a network of allies instead of operating entirely alone, marking a real shift in philosophy from Season 1. Bruce Timm, J.J. Abrams, and Matt Reeves produced this second season of the noir-style animated series set in the 1940s, adding the Joker, the Riddler, and Roxy Rocket to an already crowded rogues gallery. Harley Quinn and Barbara Gordon return, and all 10 episodes drop at once. Season 1 premiered in 2024 and was widely praised as one of the best recent reinventions of the character in animation. For anyone who prefers the detective over the gadgets, this remains the purest version of Batman currently streaming anywhere. With all 10 episodes dropping at once, it's one of the better options for a weekend binge that doesn't depend on weekly drops. Number 4. Lanterns. Two intergalactic cops investigate a murder in a forgotten Nebraska town, and neither one expected the case to reek of cosmic conspiracy. The coded message they receive points to something extraterrestrial, though the whole town would rather blame the two outsiders than actually investigate. Damon Lindelof and Tom King write this DC series starring Kyle Chandler as Hal Jordan and Aaron Pierre as Jon Stewart, with Nathan Fillion reprising Guy Gardner. The tone leans closer to a small-town crime drama than a cosmic green ring spectacle, something its own creators compare to True Detective. The series is part of the first chapter of James Gunn's new DC universe, meant to lay the narrative groundwork for the movies and shows that follow. Betting on the grounded over the cosmic is risky, but if it lands, it could be the best reminder yet that good Green Lantern stories were always about the human details. The creative risk of trading cosmic spectacle for a grounded mystery won't win over everyone, but it should win over anyone who values a well-solved mystery over special effects. Number 3. Digger. A southern drawling billionaire absolutely convinced he's humanity's savior accidentally causes the very disaster he then has to fix himself. The disaster in question is a massive iceberg nicknamed Judy, and the fix he comes up with only makes things worse. Alejandro G. Iñárritu directs this original satire starring Tom Cruise alongside Riz Ahmed, Sandra Hüller, Jesse Plemons, and John Goodman. It's Iñárritu's first English-language film since The Revenant, shot in VistaVision with his frequent cinematographer Emanuel Lubezki. Cruise himself has called the project the biggest acting risk he's taken in years, after spending much of the last decade in action franchises. The sheer curiosity of watching Cruise in a register totally different from his usual roles, directed by one of the boldest filmmakers working today, already makes this one of the year's most intriguing bets. Number 2. Street Fighter. An underground 1,993 tournament brings together a cast so mismatched on paper that it's hard to believe they're all in the same movie, and that clash is exactly what makes it so eye-catching. The tournament itself doubles as cover for a conspiracy that forces the fighters to turn on each other before the final round. Hitao Sakurai directs this adaptation starring Andrew Koji as Ryu and Noah Centineo as Ken, alongside Kalina Liang as Chun-Li. The rest of the cast adds Jason Momoa as Blanca, 50 Cent as Balrog, and even WWE wrestlers like Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes playing iconic villains from the video game. It's the third time the video game has hit theaters, following the 1994 attempt with Jean-Claude Van Damme and the 2009 Chun-Li-centered production. Fighting game movie adaptations have been missing the mark for decades, so this one is either headed for gloriously fun spectacle or a memorable disaster, and that genre rarely lands anywhere in between. Number 1. Avengers. Doomsday. Heroes from 3 different universes end up on a collision course, and the threat pulling them together this time wears the face of a villain everyone thought was impossible to bring back. That villain has been teased for years, but finally seeing him on screen, wearing the face of an actor who used to play Iron Man, completely changes how the threat feels. The Russo brothers return to direct Robert Downey Jr., who trades Iron Man for Dr. Doom in a cast that mixes the original Avengers with the X-Men on the big screen for the first time. It's the 39th film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the one kicking off what the studio is calling a soft reset for the franchise. The film arrives the same day as Dune. Part 3, a box office collision fans have already nicknamed Doomsday. After a stretch of shaky box office results, Marvel is betting everything it has on this one, which is exactly why it closes out the list as the release no one in the film world wants to miss. And that was everything here on the premiere. Tell us which of these releases you already have marked on your calendar and which one you think might disappoint. If you enjoyed this list, leave a like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss our next movie, series, and streaming recommendations. Thanks for your support. See you in the next video.